Thank you. Now stop it. I do appreciate that. That was wonderful. Thank you all.
All right, he'll hate me for doing this, but what do you think about Brian Schmetzer as your new head coach? I only get one chance, man. That's it. Little Q&A here because this is exciting for the entire organization. Obviously, GM, President of Soccer Operations, Garth Lagerway joins us on stage. We'll start with Brian. Brian, I grew up in Seattle. That's why I'm so happy to be working for the Sounders. You went to Nathan Hale. I bought shoes from your sport house. I mean, what's it like for you to be now coach of your hometown team? What's that feel like?
Well, it's obviously an awesome day for myself, my family. My son Kian's here, my wife Christine, everybody, my kids that are watching in New Jersey and California, Danny, Colin. So it's a big day for me. It's a big day for people in Seattle, though, because what has happened, just starting back in 1974, all of this stuff, started a long time ago. It started with, the players walking around Memorial Stadium handing out flowers. It was Jeff Hurst, a guy that scored a hat trick in a World Cup match, actually doing soccer camps for kids. And here's the only guy that scored a hat trick in the World Cup. These memories, these moments were made in Seattle. I forward Alan Hinton's in the crowd, and I have to thank Alan for signing me. And a lot of the traditions that were started at Memorial Stadium in 1974, that was the start of the bond between the fans, you guys, and the players. I think what Alan had a big part of was the success, because there's been a lot of success of Sounder teams over the years. And Alan in the 80s had teams that were 25 wins, and we were doing pretty good back then. So that kind of started the winning mentality of our franchise. And again, those memories were made in the Kingdome. Some of us still remember the Kingdome, but they were good days. I mean, they were good days out kicking the ball around in there. And then, a little bit of downtime, in the 90s, but FC Seattle was there. Jeff Durgan, a guy that played for the New York Cosmos, a bunch of local guys, Chance Fry, they all kept that kind of groundswell of soccer here in Seattle. It was still soccer being played here. I moved off and did some indoor things, came back in '94 again, where again Al had a big part of it, but it was all local guys. It was like Marcus Hanneman and Chance Fry, Billy Crook, Neil Mixon, all those guys just kept continuing being good people, good pros. We were winning some games, so that all was great. My years in the USL days, they were fantastic years. They were tremendous years. My growth as a coach with Jimmy Gabriel, those were important years for me. The fans that stood by us all those years when Adrian took over, it was really good. We opened up CenturyLink Field against the Vancouver Whitecaps, and we actually beat them 3-1 in that opening match, the soft opening for CenturyLink. That was another moment that was made here in Seattle, my hometown. So all of this, fast forward now to '09, I was very, very happy to be Zig's assistant. I think Ziggy launched the franchise in a really positive way. And me being able to be part of Ziggy's staff, again, taught me a lot of things. But that first game, when we played against New York and we won 3-1, Freddie Montero, that moment was made in Seattle. And that really was a spark. That was a spark for what we have now, which is a bunch of tremendously talented people working in the front office, all of the fans, all of the players that are here, all of the support staff, my own staff now with Grant Clark, Ezra, Ante, Jimmy, Tommy Dutra, everybody. That was all things that were made here in Seattle. I would be remiss not to mention some of the stars that were from this area, like Casey Keller, who I know he's in the audience today. I'm proud to be the head coach of this team, and I'm thankful for a lot of people for giving me the opportunity to coach in this town. So thank you.
That's tough to follow up. Garth, why Brian? Why now? Duh. Yeah. That was dumb. Next one.
Look, as job interviews go, I came to Brian and in the transition period, and I said, okay, here's what I think you need to do. We probably average 2 points a game the rest of the way. You got a little bit less than 3 months. All I need is double the output we've gotten out of this group up to now. And Brian gave a version of, and I'm paraphrasing to be clear, but he gave a version of, this is my dream job. This is what I've always wanted. This is what I've always waited for. And you're giving me this opportunity, and I intend to take it. And he did. And that's why. And look, I can sit up here and say, hey, I know some things about running an organization, but the little video we played is true. The first day I got here, I said, Brian, what does it mean to be a Sounder? And there's no way I could possibly replicate what he just rattled off about the history of the Sounders, let alone the feel of the culture and the feel of this city and the feel of this community. And I think something like that's invaluable. And I think very rarely do you get to hire a head coach who embodies all of these things. And it's not just a good head coach, not just a good manager, but as someone who embodies all of these great elements about our club and about our culture. And Brian, I think we have a unique opportunity with you going forward, leading us. And we're not finished yet.
And we're not finished yet.
Couple more before we let you go. Brian, when you first took over, you talked about giving ownership of the squad back to the players, and I knew that was a new concept. Everyone at that media session was kind of like, well, what are you talking about? You're the coach. What does that mean? Can you explain to us what that means for you and where you brought that philosophy on, where you developed that philosophy?
Well, I think it comes from just my experiences as a young man growing up. As a player, I remember Al was a good manager. He managed the squad, the players, but guys like Steve Buttle, Alan Hudson, Frank Barton, all those guys, they were actually the ones that were teaching me how to be a good pro. And Al was just kind of sitting above us and, pulling the strings, and, I learned from the players. I had a spell at the San Diego Sockers indoors where we had some good teams, and Ron Newman was another good coach. He had this tactical idea, but all the layers of details within that tactical idea came from a really talented group of players. So some of that was just my own upbringing. Fast forward that, I mentioned Jimmy Gabriel early on. He was a big part of my kind of getting to know some of the tactical demands of how to coach and why we coach and what you say to players, how you say things to players. My good friend Pete Fewing, successful man, successful head coach at Seattle University, told me this: no one really cares what you know until they know that you care. So you have to add that little element to it. The players have to understand that you actually care. And what better way to show them that you care but by saying, very honestly, look, you guys are the ones that do the hard work. Okay, we work hard. Our coaching staff does work hard. But they're the ones that put it in every single day. Every exercise that Dave Tenney comes up that's really hard and demanding, they actually feel good after that exercise because they've accomplished something. They've actually done the hard work. So they have to reward themselves. And young players, old players, new players, guys that have been here for a long time like Brad Nazi, they automatically bought in, and the result is what you guys see on Sundays at the stadium.
Clark, you've been in the league, you played in the league. Talk about your reaction to this run. I mean, it's a historic run. Well, this is a great run. This is really a fun run. Well, no, it gets to historic, levels here. Not only that, but Sporting KC, a dominant effort on Sunday versus Dallas. But talk about this run here and your experience and what you're thinking about the whole thing as you watch Brian take it over.
Brian's touched on this, that he empowered the group. He went to the group and said, this is your team and we're going to succeed or fail based on your efforts as players. And I think especially with the veteran group that we had, I think that was the right message and it's resonated, and they built on that and they've run with it. And we've been so resilient. Come from behind 4 or 5 times, I think, in the stretch of 15 or 16 games. Built leads, overcome all kinds of things. Lost a number of players through injury and absence, and always the answer from Brian when I say, hey, what are we doing this week? You're missing 2 more guys. He's like, we'll figure it out. And it's that attitude that starts with the head coach. It comes organically from our players. That kind of shared responsibility, that desire to win at all costs, but also to overcome any obstacle, to always have a positive mentality that we can do this. If he's out, next man up. I think it's been really, really critical to this run and to this success, and hopefully we can keep it going.
I want to follow up with that, though.
Yes,
because we have some good players. Lodero's pretty darn good. Ramon's pretty darn good. Clint is very, very good. We can't forget about Clint because he's still a valuable member to the team. Brad and Nazi, I mentioned the 2 young superstars over there, Steph, the goalkeepers. Tommy does a great job with them. We have a really good squad. Chad Marshall, I could name all of them. Andreas Ivanchitz. We have a really good team, so that actually makes my job a little easier. Thanks.
A couple more for each of you. Brian, you talked about being a steward of the club when you took over at the very beginning, and it had to do with your roots in Seattle, but I want you to expand on that. I thought it was a fascinating answer of what that means to you being a steward of the club of Sounders FC.
We talked about that a little bit over at the Alliance Council meeting, and all of us are, at some point going to pass on. Everyone except for Joe. He was the only one that said he's gonna keep living forever. But Adrian has a young son, Leo, who, Adrian had a lot of positive experiences growing up being a Sounder fan, and he wants to give that to his son. He wants his son to experience some of those things. Look, Alan was a very good steward of the club in the sense that he kept the sport alive in many different occasions, and unfortunately, Al, you and I, we won't be here forever, so this club is the only thing that's going to continue. Well, there you go. This club will always be here. It will always be the fans and their relationship with the players. This club will always be here. Unfortunately, I'm going to just do what I can, do my part to win soccer games, be a good steward of the club, and then when my time passes on, I'll hand it off to the next capable coach.
Garth, I'm fascinated. Obviously, Brian has talked about the amazing club that we do have, the players on the pitch, but I'm fascinated with, I don't know how else to say it, maybe the courtship and how the process of bringing Nico Lodero here, our new son here to Seattle. Can you talk about that process for us?
It's one of the most miserable processes of my life. But the good news is it ended well. We spent 6 months on it, and there were definitely moments when we thought it was going to fall apart. And Nico was a unique player to me. He's the best player that I had ever seen in terms of the qualities, the number of different qualities he possessed. We can all look at soccer players, and Chris Henderson and Kurt Schmidt have looked at hundreds of soccer players on my behalf, on our behalf, and I thank you both for your efforts. But that's one piece of it. Nico's a good soccer player. We can see that. And we went and saw Nico play, and we could see he was a good player in that regard as well. But off the field, he's amazing. He's won titles in 4 different countries. He speaks English, speaks multiple languages. One of our first experiences with him in the locker room after warm-ups came in, and this is his first game, his first experience with a new group of guys. And he turned off the radio. And he said, look, this isn't how it works. And the guys, everybody followed him. without hesitation. And that kind of thing, that's not easy to replicate or to find, that kind of leadership. And when I talk to players like Christian Roldan and some of the younger guys in the team, and I said, what does Nico bring? How does Nico influence you? And he said, you can't ever let down in practice. This guy works harder than everybody else does in practice, so you have no choice but to follow along. And I think, when you have that kind of positive role model on and off the field of providing leadership as well as being a good soccer player, certainly doesn't hurt that he's played in some big games, a couple of World Cups, a couple of Copa Americas, a couple of Copa Libertadores. That this time of year, that stuff comes in real handy as well.
Brian, final question for you. Dallas, Sunday, 6 o'clock our time, Frisco, Texas. You happen to be, I don't know if everyone here knows, you're taking a 3-0 lead with you down to Frisco. Go ahead, what? You said to the media the other day, we're going to play like it's 0-0, we're going to go win the game, we're going to go try to win the game. Without giving too much away, can you talk about tactics, can you talk about mindset? And everybody wants to kind of knock it. Boy, are you going to sit back, park the bus? Your thoughts? There's a couple votes no. Your thoughts on the mindset going down to Frisco this weekend?
Well, Garth talked a lot about Nico being a good role model, good leader in the locker room, but we have a lot of those guys. It's ingrained within them. Roman Torres, Chad Marshall, Brad, Ozzy, who has done a tremendous job here these guys are all winners. They are all winners. And they would do anything. They sacrifice some of their own game to make sure that the team wins. I think that's what Nico has, what Roman has, Chad, Steph, Jordy, all those guys. So what we always try and say, and what we try and do, yes, tactics for each game might be a little different, but we're always going to go out and try and win games. I think this team is too good not to go out with that type of mentality. The players that we have within the squad, and again, we're missing arguably the best attacking player this country has ever produced. Even with that loss, guys have stepped forward. Everyone has stepped forward on the team. They all believe in the team. They all believe in a winning mentality. And that's the reason why I say we're going to go down there and we're not going to try and park the bus. We're actually going to try and win the game because we understand that if we score one, they got to score a ton more. So that's and my last comment is I hope we're dancing after the game.
Ladies and gentlemen, your new coach, Brian Schmetzer. Thank you very much, Garth and Brian.